It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Since our founding, we've been revolutionizing hair removal with cutting-edge technology and a commitment to empowerment. The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. Experience the future of hair removal today at ulike.com, because at Ulike, beauty is about looking and feeling good. That's ulike.com. Ulike. With Ease US, make studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects, featuring 468 natural AI voices. Customize the volume, mood, and pauses to perfectly match your content. Plus, capture high quality videos with no watermark. Record your screen, webcam, and voice, and save them instantly to your computer. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Just use AMP-Pace.
AMP-Pace.
Is the Pete Sousa Show. It is a Friday. And in the words of my friend Dak Prescott, and we will get to this later, here we go! Maybe one of the last times you hear that. I'll tell you why, coming up in a few minutes. It's presented by Slovakics, the Pete Sousa Show. Zach Burke is holding us down. Scotty Swingler on the IR, hoping he gets well soon. Zach is kicking ass and taking names, and Socorro Family Ford is doing the same thing. If you are looking for a new car, if you're in the business for a new whip, go out to Socorro Family Ford in West. And again, I always say this, just dip your toe in the water. I went out there yesterday, talked to Brian Socorro. It is a family operation. And if you're looking for a car, you don't want to be pressured. You don't want to feel like, oh my gosh, this is too much. I'm overwhelmed. Go see those guys, right? Dip your toe in the water. you may end up going back and actually buying something. But they're not going to put the screws to you like some other car dealerships do. Of course, can't forget about Daniel Stark and Extraco Banks. And we got a packed show for you today. A lot to get to. Of course, the NBA playoffs. Pacers really dropped the ball last night, so the Knicks are going to send it back to Indianapolis for Game 6 on Saturday. Before that, I do want to talk about, there was a major development in the world of college football. And this is a pretty huge story. There's no other way to start the show off than some breaking news. We have received a cover of College Football 2025 by EA Sports, of course. 26, thanks, Zach. College Football 2026 by EA Sports. The highly anticipated cover reveal happens right now. Zach, let's take a look. Oh, there it is, baby. Jordan Hudson is not banned. She's actually on the cover of EA Sports College Football 2026. It's actually a great look for her. I would hope that if she is at Carolina games this year, that she tones it down and looks like that, as opposed to like all the sparkles and stuff we saw at the spring game. Great shot, Jordan, looking good. Okay, that's not real, but it's a lot of fun. I talked with Nick Pick yesterday about the coverage. Nick Pick, Emmy Award-winning journalist, about the coverage of Jordan Hudson and Bill Belichick by Pablo Torre. You can check that out. That is up on the Pete Sousa Show page. All the clips, shorts are up there. 20,000 plus subscribers. I think we're at 2,100 now. So thank you guys so much for being a part of the movement. We're talking to Cam Stuart coming up in segment 2. And then in segment 3, we have NBA draft analyst, former NBA agent, and a power player in the game, Matt Babcock. The guy bleeds NBA basketball and just basketball overall. Long line of success in that family. A couple GMs in there. Of course, Matt played hoops at Arizona and was a real successful sports agent, and now handicaps the draft and travels all over watching players. I met him doing a Big 12 game somewhere on the West Coast, I think Utah. Scott Williams introduced me to him, and he's just a great dude, and he's got some cool stuff going with Babcock Hoops. So we're going to chat with him in a little bit, but I want to start with last night's game, Pacers and Knicks. And it was funny. Yesterday afternoon, or maybe it was the night before, I think it was the night before, I was watching the Western Conference playoffs, and I was, you scroll through Twitter, and there was a writer who I was getting a kick out of him. He was a Barstool guy. It was a great story. And he talked about, and this is a hot button deal, but, if you hear people talk about Trump derangement syndrome, right? Like if somebody hates Donald Trump, it's hard for them to actually make a real clear decision on how they feel about some of the stuff politically because they see him attached to it. And the guy is such a lightning rod, right? So it's called Trump derangement syndrome, okay? Whether you subscribe to that or not, I don't care. That's not the point of this. The point is that this guy wrote a story on Barstool, and it was based around how we all, or at least guys like Mad Dog Russo and Stephen A. Smith, they have Halliburton derangement syndrome. And they had an inability to actually appreciate what Tyrese Halliburton was doing this playoff run and over the course of his career to become a superstar in the NBA. We mentioned it yesterday or 2 days ago. In the win in Game 4, Halliburton had 32 points, 15 assists, 10 rebounds, no turnovers, was the only guy outside of Joker and Oscar Robertson to put up a stat line like that. And never has there been a player in the playoffs to have a stat line like I just mentioned with no turnovers. But last night, he laid a huge egg. And it kind of makes that article that I read the other night. And it was serious, but it was also like, poking fun at Stephen A. and Mad Dog Russo and a ton of pundits all over the world, the basketball world, that were not ready to quite give Tyrese Halliburton that superstar kudos, right? And last night, maybe we saw the reason why some people were not so quick to run to his defense or to run to his celebration, right? To run to his canonization. And now we see 8 points, 2 of 7 field goals. Now the Knicks win 111-94. And the Pacers from go, right? This is a team that all they did was score points in game 4. 23 points in the first quarter, 22 in the second quarter. They had 28 in the third and then 21 in the fourth quarter. The Knicks locked them down. And there was a lot of really good defense, and that's what Tom Thibodeau does, right? Defensive adjustments were clearly made. But at the same time, you have to think, if you're a Pacers fan, or if you're one of those people who does not have Halliburton derangement syndrome, and you want to celebrate him and his evolution and the fact that he is making his way towards the mountaintop of NBA greats, you got to press pause here. You have to look twice. This is a closeout game, and I understand you're not going to play as aggressive maybe in a game that's not do or die. I don't understand that because I'm not as good as these guys, and I don't know what it's like to compete at a level like that. But I do know from watching some of the greats that came before Tyrese Halliburton that there's no consideration about, oh, is this an elimination game? Is this a closeout game? Is this a game where we absolutely have to win to keep our season alive? Let me put the pedal to the metal. There was Michael Jordan, there was never that, right? I mean, yeah, once in a while, a superstar will go out and have a bad game. And it rarely happens, though, in the Eastern Conference Finals to a superstar, right? And this could be part of Tyrese Halliburton's path. We talked yesterday when comparing Anthony Edwards to some of the greats who came before him. We were talking about Anthony Edwards being 23 years of age and needing some support in Minnesota in order to reach the mountaintop after being bounced out of the Western Conference Finals. And we mentioned how, look, there is a process to this whole thing. Anthony Edwards is 23 years old. Tyrese Halliburton, drafted 12th in the 2020 draft. I mean, he is still a very young man in this whole process, about 25 years of age. So there's certainly some maturity, right, and like a matriculation you would call as a player, becoming more calloused in big moments like this. Remember, last year he played in the Eastern Conference Finals sparingly. He played game 1, and then early in game 2, he had a hamstring or a lower leg injury that kept him out the rest of the series, and the Celtics swept the Pacers. So while this could be a part of his process, I think we do have to show some grace here to experts. I'll call Stephen A. Smith and Mad Dog Russo experts because I just love them and have grown up either reading them or listening to them or watching them. As a kid growing up in Philly, I read Stephen A. Smith when he was a beat writer for the Sixers. I read him when he was a columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And I was just close enough to New York City where I could listen to Mike and the Mad Dog as a kid. And certainly when I moved to that area, right, the New York City area, I listened to them all the time. And they're two of the great ones. And the reason they're so great is because those two dudes actually go to the games. And those two dudes actually pay strict attention and talk to people about what's going on. So I think it's pretty exciting when you see that guys like that, at least if you're me, that I grew up watching, they still kind of, that's why they didn't go ahead and confirm Halliburton as a superstar. Because he's not yet. He is a great player, okay? But he is not a bona fide superstar. And this performance is a reflection as to why. Even if the defensive pressure is ratcheted up, even if your teammates, right? Like, I don't think he was getting the screens that he was in previous games, just from me watching the naked eye from guys like Miles Turner. He didn't seem like he was getting open. And then when he was open, he was deferring. And I understand that. He's got that unselfish quality, one of the reasons he's so great. But there's an understanding, and I don't know what it's all about, but I know it when I see it, right? I don't know how that works. I'm just doing the best I can over here. I don't know what it's like to be elite at anything. I think I'm pretty good at sharing my story about sobriety, but that's about it. That's the one thing I always tell people. That's one thing I'm an expert on, is my story on getting sober, many years ago, because it was me. So that's the one thing I'm an expert on. Outside of that, I'm just listening to other people, watching, paying attention, and digging into the crate with my experience as a player and obviously working in the NBA and PR and now calling games. But I don't know what it's like to be elite. I don't. I know what it's like to try hard and work your ass off. But, I don't know what it's like to be Tyrese Halliburton, to go out there in Game 5 at Madison Square Garden and just get locked up. But I do know if he wants to be considered one of the best players in the NBA, which he is now, right? He's in that conversation. But if he wants to be considered a superstar, a bona fide superstar, if next go round he's going to be on Team USA and he wants to play, right? You got to kind of rise up to moments like this and meet the moment. Now, all the dude has is time, right, to show us what he really is made of. But last night was a good example of why I appreciate some of the pundits, old school guys like Bob Ryan, like Stephen A., like Mike Wilbon, right? Guys who I grew up idolizing, not the first take bozos, okay? I'm talking about the sports reporters, okay? These are guys who I just canonized as a kid, and for whatever reason, I'm still drinking the juice. And they are not quick to say, oh, Tyrese Halliburton is a superstar. And I think last night's scoring line could be an indication as to why he is not there yet. Again, maybe we'll ask Matt Babcock this, what he thinks about Tyrese Halliburton and if he's a superstar. That's not exactly draft stuff, but it is something I'm curious to talk about. Maybe talk with a basketball guy about. Cowboys news. So yesterday in training camp, not at training camp, at OTAs, it's funny. There was, we always have an opportunity, it seems like just about every day, to have a real overreaction to what's going on around the sports landscape. And the Cowboys are never short on providing us with material. It's interesting. We poke fun at Bill Belichick and the Jordan Hudson stuff, but I'm in the middle of a book now, which I'm listening to, right? I'm not going to lie. But I am in the middle of the book, The Education of a Coach, by David Halberstam. And it's about Bill Belichick. And it's an amazing book. And it talked about Belichick when he was the head coach in Cleveland after he'd worked for Bill Parcells. And the book illustrates how Parcells was a winner, and he was like intimidating, and his no-nonsense shtick with the media really worked because as much as he was a prick to the media in New York, once the Giants started to win, he sort of had that right. If you're winning as a coach, you reserve the right, I hate to say this, but to maybe have a certain, kind of browbeating delivery that Bill Belichick had. And David Halberstam illustrates in the video that sports writers were willing to hang in there and to take his crap because at the end of the day, he was a quote machine, right? Bill Belichick was a quote machine. And as a member of the media, you hang in there for that because he's going to give you a story that you can put top of the fold, at least back in the day, top of the fold, maybe now top of Twitter or X. But you can have a story with a great quote from a great coach that is going to move, newspapers back in the day. You get the idea. The Cowboys have the same thing with Jerry Jones. You can go to the Cowboys OTAs or you can go to any Cowboys game. Our buddy Matt Mosley does it all the time. There's a reason why he lingers to hang to talk to Jerry Jones after Cowboys games, which a lot of which were losses at home this last year. One, Jerry Jones knows Mosley as a Cowboys insider with all his great work with the Dallas Morning News and what he does now for ESPN Central Texas. But Mosley also knows Jerry Jones enough to, the more you hang around, the more you're going to get a real quote, right? That can move you and move the fan base. And a lot of times it's telling. Why is it telling? Because he's the owner and it's something maybe the coach is not necessarily appreciative of Jerry Jones divulging. But yesterday at OTAs, Brian Schottenheimer, who is not that guy, he's not a quote machine. So I think members of the media are kind of thirsty, right, for a big quote because Jerry Jones more than likely won't be available until the start of training camp. He said that Dak Prescott right now is in a development phase. And people were like, yes, like let's talk about the Cowboys head coach saying that Dak Prescott is in a development stage. Jackpot. And it really, like if you read Ed Werder, right? If you follow Matt Mosley, right? A guy like Randy Galloway is retired, but you get the idea. Calvin Watkins, right? Like these guys are not, they're not running with that story, but you can find it all over Twitter because it's a quick quote. Oh my gosh, Brian Schottenheimer says he's in the developmental phase. That's not what he meant. He meant that, right? First of all, Dak is by no means going to have to, compete for his job. It is his job, right? But there is a developmental difference now that will happen under Brian Schottenheimer. It's a new regime. The guy switched around the locker room, right? I mean, which, by the way, as a guy who, as I get older, you become like atrophied to change, that would put a bug up my ass. If I was like a Cowboys veteran and I walked in and I'm used to having my locker next to Zach Burke every year, and to the right, I know I got Cam Stewart, and I walk in and now I'm next to Mike Hamilton and Matthew Heaton, like other guys that work here at Rogue. I'm like, dude, where the hell are Zach and Cam? Now I got or people you don't know at all and you have to forge relationships with them. Well, you could say that's a way to kind of shake things up. And that's why Brian Schottenheimer is the head coach of the Cowboys and I'm sitting here. But there are some fundamental changes that he's making. One of them will be, and this is, I think, what he was talking about, kind of erring on the side of development within the Cowboys system under Brian Schottenheimer. That's where Dak is developing. Zach's developing too, in ways that you guys can't even imagine. But remember last year, the Cowboys had a bunch of new offensive linemen. And I don't know if it was a quick fix or whose idea it was. I think it was Dak's. But the here we go, right? Here we go! That was, and fans kind of love that. It kind of wore out its welcome pretty fast because the Cowboys started to suck bad. And then it was like when you're down 38-6 and you're trying to come back on the road against Atlanta and you hear like, here we go. It's like, man, this thing's kind of losing its luster, right? It sounded good in Cleveland when they beat the brakes off the Browns in week 1 after Dak signed that huge contract. And I'm reading here, this is Dallas Cowboys report. It says the Dallas Cowboys offensive line welcomed multiple new starters in 2024. Obviously, rookie Tyler Guyton. And the here we go after Prescott diagnosed potential blitzers and audibles kind of helped everybody get into lockstep before the ball was snapped. Now, while it benefited the Cowboys O-line and ultimately Prescott, odds are it made things easier for opposing defenses as well. After a while, it felt obvious when Dallas was about to hike the ball. That, in turn, made it easier for pass rushers to get to Prescott. And the number here, this is Cowboys reporter as it relates to the fan-sided website. Prescott was pressured and opposing defenses got home 21.5% of the time. That's way too much. Now, Prescott's cadence obviously is not like, that wasn't the issue, but it certainly was something that defenses, I know this as a former college defensive lineman, any little bit of tip you can get as to when to get off the ball. I mean, get-offs are the most important thing. Of course, getting off's important, right, Zach? But get-offs, no, come on. Get-offs are the most important thing for a defensive lineman because, remember, the offense knows when they're going to go, right? And after maybe a play is audible or whatever, there is something, a sound or this here we go that lets the offensive line know, okay, we're ready to go now. The here we go was just so prominent, I think that it allowed opposing defenses to really kind of get a jump on Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense. And it looks like that is going to change. Schottenheimer noted Thursday that two-time Pro Bowler Dak Prescott is still in a developmental stage. And I think he's talking about as far as what the new wrinkles could be in the offense. And his quote was, and this is all for everybody. We all need to remain teachable. The minute these quarterbacks think they've figured it all out, that's probably when it's time for them to think about doing something different. And he said that kind of tongue-in-cheek. So the cadence, it looks like we're going to get a change with that. And I think everybody will be happy with that. It kind of like there's a little PTSD from last year. So yeah, I look forward to talking more Cowboys too, man. Michael Parsons not at OTAs, of course. Why would he be? He's a superstar trying to get a new contract, right? All right, we're going to come back with Cam Stewart. We're going to talk about the Baylor basketball and football off seasons, right? We're ramping up now. We're less than, I think we're 93 days away from kickoff for Baylor, or 92. First game against Auburn on a Friday night on Fox. Cam's going to talk to us about that. What the hell Stephon Diggs is doing on a boat with Tootsie, whatever it is. It's called pink cocaine, I think, allegedly. And flirting with a bunch of girls who aren't named Cardi B. Why is that important? Well, because Cardi B is Stephon Diggs' girlfriend. At least that's what we know right now. Cam Stewart, on all that stuff and much more. The Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovacek's, coming back after this.
Dive into adventure with scuba.com, your ultimate destination for top-tier scuba and snorkeling gear. With over 20 years of experience, our expert staff, who've dived everywhere from the Galapagos to the Maldives, provides personalized advice to help you find the perfect gear for any underwater journey. Shop leading brands like GoPro, Aqualung, and Scuba Pro. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, trust scuba.com for the best in diving equipment and expert guidance. Explore now at scuba.com. That's SCUBA.com. Scuba.com. At Fullwell, we bring together the expertise of registered dietitians, MDs, and OBGYNs to give you the best fertility support. Our research-backed bioavailable formulas are crafted with your health in mind, ensuring the highest quality and safety. From preconception to pregnancy and beyond, we exceed industry standards with independent testing for harmful contaminants. With our comprehensive practitioner directory, personalized care is always within reach. Fullwell, your trusted partner on your fertility journey. Visit us at fullwellfertility.com. Experience the perfect blend of exquisite craftsmanship and life-changing technology with Gevi. Every product is built with precision, featuring specialized parts that ensure durability, efficiency, and safety. We put every machine through 6,000 rigorous tests to guarantee long-lasting performance. With cutting-edge technology and a commitment to energy efficiency, Gevi makes your life easier, greener, and more convenient. Upgrade your everyday with Gevi. Visit us at gevi.com to discover more. That's gevi.com.
With San, owning iconic furniture no longer requires paying a premium. We use the finest materials like Italian top-grain leather, known for its durability and luxurious feel, and apply meticulous attention to detail in every piece we create. Our replicas are crafted with the same care and precision as the originals, but a price that makes them accessible. With over 15,000 satisfied customers worldwide, we've proven that high-quality furniture doesn't have to come with a high price tag. Explore our collection today at san.com.
At Covers & All, we've revolutionized protective solutions with cutting-edge, customizable covers, tarps, and curtains. Using advanced tech fabrics that are 100% waterproof, UV tear, and abrasion resistant, we ensure lasting durability with hand-sewn double-stitch seams. Our commitment to quality, precision engineering, and customizable options is unmatched. With vertically integrated operations and express shipping, we deliver premier protection at affordable prices. Visit coversandall.com today for the perfect fit, guaranteed to last.
One second, Cam. Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Hey, Cam.
Hey.
Good to see you, buddy.
Great to be seen.
How's everything in the Windy City this morning? Okay.
It's good, man. Weather's nice. I just had about 10 minutes ago, I had a full breakdown in my living room about to throw the laptop out the window. But other than that, it's been pretty good, man.
I missed your meltdowns. Can I tell you that?
Oh, this was a patented, scare the dog kind of meltdown here. I have no storage on this computer. I have none, man. I can't do anything on this computer.
Is it a Mac?
Yes.
Huh.
And it's a POS. It's the POS model, the POS model, that just has no storage.
So what do you do about that? How do you fix that? Geek Squad?
So no, you just have breakdowns all the time. So here's the thing, Pete, real quick, because I know we got to get into this.
Yeah.
They have a billion friggin' apps on here that you can't delete. They just come with the Mac, and you can't delete them. And so when you go to your storage, when you're trying to clear some storage, it's 88% of it's in your applications. And the only one that I have downloaded is Premiere, which I need to use every single day. That's the only one I've downloaded. Everything else is stuff that I can't. Yes, everything else is stuff I can't delete. They won't let me delete it. So every document, everything that ever goes on the desktop, everything I ever download is there for about one day because I have to clear it all. And it doesn't help that I have two Google Chromes up because I do two different shows, and so I just work on two different Google Chrome windows with a couple of tabs each. They've got 8 tabs each. So there's a lot of tabs, but
it's a high wire act. Doing what we do from different places, like you can run into trouble, and it gets a little, it's not like we're doing World News Tonight over here, but when you're supposed to go live, you want to go live, and sometimes it says you don't have enough storage to do X, Y, or Z. I get it.
I'm just trying to do a couple of VOs for my show.
Yeah.
That's voiceovers, just a little video for the background. They're all still images. They're not video. It's just still images for 10 seconds each, whatever. And I can't even do that. It pops up everything. You don't have enough storage. Clear stuff, clear stuff, clear stuff. And I'm like throwing things in my living room as a nearly 30-year-old man. It's
By the way, this guy's living girlfriend is a therapist. I mean, clearly not tapping into any of that shit.
Well, she's got a lot of work on her plate. She's at work right now.
Project could be right in front of her.
I mean, I think there's something to that.
All right, Cam, is there anything to Stephon Diggs with pink cocaine on a boat? And here's my deal. I was kind of ignoring this. I mean, I love to talk about all that crap, but it really came on my radar when I saw that the World News on NBC, Lester Holt, they did a story on it last night. And they showed Mike Vrabel, who had to comment on it, which I'm sure he's excited about doing prior to his first year as head coach. What do you make of that?
Honestly, like the first 5 times I watched it, I didn't even notice what it was. I mean, like, let's be adults here. Clearly, that's not pixie sticks, right? Like,
no,
there's definitely handing out drugs, whether it's pink cocaine or whatever. Like, it's definitely that. And it's kind of, I was kind of in this in between. I talked about it a little bit on my show yesterday. I was kind of in this in between where it's one of those where, like, you'd be a fool to think that a lot of these multi-millionaire professional athletes aren't doing some kind of recreational drugs in their off season, right? Like this is OTA season. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's not the most desirable thing, but it's not PEDs. So, but the thing that's so stupid, way more stupid than handing pink cocaine to these scantily clad women on a boat, is the fact that one of them has a friggin' phone out and is recording it. Like, Stephon Diggs has been a star for almost 10 years now. Like, that's ridiculous. How do you let that happen? And yeah, it's a bad look, specifically for a first-year coach at Mike Vrabel who comes in and was like, all right, for lack of a better term, drain the swamp here in Foxborough, right? Like, enough of the crap. Like, we're gonna be professionals. We're gonna have accountability. Like, we're gonna check all that other crap at the door, kind of the way Belichick did for forever, until apparently his last year. But it's not a great sign for the culture of it. And Diggs was apparently in Foxborough last week and was not in OTAs this week. And the rumor is now that Vrabel told him, stay away for this week. So not great, especially for a guy in Diggs who's 31, 30, on the wrong side of 30. He's coming off a major injury. This is the last real money contract he's going to get. Last chance to really be a number one receiver. And this is the first thing that happens.
The optics aren't great, right? The whole dating a superstar on a boat with women who aren't that superstar, but apparently she is there too. And the drugs. Yeah, it's
making them call him daddy.
It's a young man living fast.
Much like Pete does in the studio every day, by the way.
It's a young man living pretty fast, which, by the way, like you said, is not out of the ordinary for someone with that much money and fame at such a young age. I can't imagine what I would have been like. So, we're not passing judgment, but as a Patriots guy, it's not great for business. If you're Mike Vrabel, you're kind of like, WTF, come on, man.
Yeah, especially, again, here's a guy that comes in and needs to preach about culture and changing it because they need it. They need it. Not needed. They still need it. And here was your big offensive free agent splash was getting big money for Stephon Diggs. One last chance, really. Be the young quarterback's number one receiver. It's funny, the Patriots leaked out after they didn't get T. Higgins. They leaked out something that said they didn't want a receiver who's too demanding. of Drake May. You know, they want Drake May's development to continue going. They don't want a receiver who's too demanding. And you and I both know pretty well, like there's no such thing as a good receiver that's not demanding.
That's why they're good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't get T. Higgins because of that. But here is Stephon Diggs, who, let's be honest, the last couple of stops he's been at, they haven't been so sad to see him leave town. He comes in and is passing out pink cocaine in his first memorable act as a Patriot. Like, oh, good thing he's not demanding the football, though. That would suck for Drake May. You know, like it writes itself, man.
All right, I got you for a finite amount of time, so
Yes.
I want to get to Baylor, and
Okay.
I want to hit on the Baylor basketball team and their recruitment. The Elijah Williams signing, right? Now it's exciting. 4-star guy, first signee of the 2026 class. I was super pumped about it, and I still am. But when I read the scouting report by our guy Paul Biancardi, friend of Rogue Media, comes on this show.
Mass guy.
Yeah, Mass guy. That's
Asshole,
it.
yeah.
Majerus guy. He's the man.
Yeah.
But Paul said it was a very more of a fundamental scouting report as far as know-how, understanding of the game, right? Can box out great, straight line driver, gets to the free throw line. It was not like reading a VJ Edgecombe scouting report. What do you make of that, especially on the heels of the Iguodala signing? That's 2025.
Yeah.
Another guy, and it's cool that they're both, dads are in the NBA, and so it's not like a race.
Yeah, the Elijah Williams scouting report does sound like the son of a coach, oddly enough.
But it doesn't sound like a 4-star dude.
No, that is something to take into account. Like, this is a guy who's playing at a high level, still a high level of basketball, high school basketball, but all the scouts know him. They know his dad. And I'm not saying they're lying here, but yeah, there's probably a bit of preference on how they're writing the scouting report. And if a guy is really a high 3-star, but he's Monty Williams' son and he does play pretty well, maybe he does get a 4-star. Or, Andre Iguodala II is a 3-star coming out of one of these elite prep schools in that high school basketball now has concentrated all its talent to. And so you're like, well, if he's playing here, he maybe should be even a little bit better. And again, not saying these guys stink or anything like that, but it is something that you need to take into account. And I do find it interesting as a on the flip side of a good mark of Baylor that an NBA Finals MVP is trusting his son to go there. Former coach of the year is trusting his son to go there and play for Scott Drew. It reminds me of a program I know kind of well, and that's Duke. In your time watching the Duke Blue Devils, they've had Doug Collins' son, Mike Dunleavy's son, David Robinson's son. Bob Hurley's son. They have all these. That's a good poll. All these great basketball people, their sons go to Duke. Carlos Boozer's son. Who would have thought that? Oh, wait, Carlos Boozer went to Duke as well. So all these, sons of coaches, executives. Calvin Hill's son. So it's people that have been around the sport and around plenty of coaches that trusted those guys to play for Mike, or trusted Mike Krzyzewski to mentor those guys. That's what you're seeing with Baylor right now. And in a time where, let's be honest, we could use a little boost of morale as Baylor basketball fans, it comes in that package here.
All right, number one thing, development-wise, that has bubbled up recently on the Baylor football side for you. Not the Alex Foster situation.
Yeah.
You and I both have covered that tragedy. If people want to hear more about that, you can check out Cam's show or Locked on Baylor, my show yesterday. Just an unspeakable thing. But, on the field, right, it's so hard to transition to it. But what football thing? Has anything or have we gotten any movement out of the Ashton Hawkins situation? Any stuff there? What's the newest next thing for Baylor football?
So first off, nothing on the Ashton Hawkins thing, and I'm a little surprised by that. I know the process, the courts process takes some time. We all know that, but Jet Elad had the same situation with Rutgers. It happened a few months ago, and it was done and dusted in court about a month ago. The end of April, it was done. So that's a little bit slow, and I'm a little surprised by that. Biggest development, though, is something I had on my show today, on Locked On Baylor today, is that they went out and got Devin Turner out of the transfer portal. He was an all Big Ten honorable mention safety from Northwestern, and a guy who's just all his grades on PFF really improved. Coverage, blitzing as a safety. You can play him in the box. Good coverage guy. Guy I was super excited about. He gets hurt at the Baylor Blitz, which some schools would call a spring game. And we didn't really know the severity of it. Well, he posted last week a picture of him on Instagram. This is the new age media, baby. On Instagram of him clearly in some sort of operating room with a brace on his knee. And so, that's never a good sign. And on Wednesday, they went out and got one of the best names in the transfer portal, Placide Jungu Sungu, a safety from Duke at the end of May. So that could be a depth piece, or that could be this Devin Turner situation's a little bit worse than we thought. So a guy that I was super high on coming out of this transfer portal class, really excited about to be a starter for Baylor, could be on the shelf here. That's the biggest one that I've seen, probably the biggest story outside of the Ashton Hawkins thing that we've had in this spring football kind of window.
Last question for you. If you could grade a scale of 1 to 10, Baylor's portal participation and success this offseason, what grade would you give it when you put in perspective with the rest of the Big 12?
For football?
Yeah.
A. I mean, Tech steals all the headlines. They have some outlets have them as the number one transfer portal class in America. Everyone has them within the top 3 or 4, and that would be an A+. Baylor right now, in multiple outlets, is second in the Big 12 in the transfer portal class. Now, that's a distance between Tech and Baylor, but to think that they're second after what they had last year is pretty impressive. And I think they've gotten, now this might change with Devin Turner, I thought they probably got like 3, maybe even 4 plug-and-play starters on the defensive side. And with a couple of position battles, could be 6 guys, that are plug-and-play starters from the transfer portal. And that was the side of the ball they really needed to help out at. They got better at receiver. They probably got better on the offensive line. Everywhere you look, with the transfer portal, they're really eliminating a lot of weaknesses. So, yeah, it's a top 20 class in the nation and second in the Big 12. So I got to give that an A, Pete.
Cam Stuart, Locked On Baylor, of course, the Cam Show. You can check him out on the Rogue Media Network. I'll be chatting with him.
Yes, baby.
In a little bit here. All right, I'll talk to you soon, Cam.
All right, we'll see you on my show, Pete.
All right, that was Cam Stewart right now. We're coming back with Matt Babcock, Babcock Basketball, NBA Draft Analyst, the Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovaceks, rolls on after this. We'll be right back after these quick words from our sponsors. This is Rogue Media Network.
Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite. Dive into adventure with scuba.com, your ultimate destination for top-tier scuba and snorkeling gear. With over 20 years of experience, our expert staff, who've dived everywhere from the Galapagos to the Maldives, provides personalized advice to help you find the perfect gear for any underwater journey. Shop leading brands like GoPro, Aqualung, and Scuba Pro. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, trust scuba.com for the best in diving equipment and expert guidance. Explore now at scuba.com. That's SCUBA.com. Scuba.com. At Terrapin Ridge Farms, they believe in the joy of effortless entertaining. Inspired by CEO Mary O'Donnell's mom and her legendary holiday parties, they've crafted a line of gourmet foods that turn any meal into a celebration. From savory jams to mustards, aiolis, and more, their products are made with love, bringing unforgettable flavors to your table. Whether it's a casual get-together or a special occasion, they make it easy to impress. Terrapin Ridge Farms, where great food and great memories come together. Visit them at terrapinridge.com. Terrapin Ridge. Want Want to turn your passion into profit? With Blogify, creating a blog has never been easier. Build, customize, and grow your site with powerful tools designed for beginners and pros alike. Start sharing your story today and watch your audience grow with Blogify. Visit blogify.ai today for a free 3-day trial. That's Blogify, BLOGIFY.ai today.
And now, back to our show. There he is, NBA draft analyst Matt Babcock with Babcock Hoops. What's happening, brother?
No, not too much, Pete. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thank you so much for taking the time on this Friday morning. You just got back from a nice family vacay. You're all tan and settled in. I appreciate it, man.
No, absolutely. Last week of May, and my kids are off school, so you got a quick trip in before June, and it's my time to shine, Pete.
This is your time to shine. I know you were in Chicago for pre-draft, and there's a lot of talk now. You know, we're just about 3 weeks away, a little over 3 weeks away from the draft. You know, here in Central Texas, obviously VJ Edgecombe is a guy who we're keeping our eye on. We've seen him as high as 3, as low as 4 or 5. What are you hearing about his progress up draft boards since the season has ended through Chicago as to where we are right now?
Yeah, he's definitely in a great place, and he's well thought of. I mean, I think across the board, just speaking to NBA scouts, whether it's with teams that are in that range or not, he's a hot commodity. I think just having watched him throughout the year, there's no denying he's an elite athlete, which is just something you can't teach. And he's got a tool, a tool set you can't teach as well. He's got a high motor. I think his shooting mechanics are there. And he's got the upside of being a very dynamic guard. I mean, whether you pencil him in as a shooting guard or a point guard, he's the guy with the ball in his hands, can make stuff happen, and he's just scratching the surface, I think, of what he's going to become. So I think he's earned his spot of being one of these top picks.
So, you're a former agent, high-profile agent. You're a Babcock. You got basketball in your DNA. How do you help a guy like VJ, if you were his representation? How can you improve his draft standing headed up to June 25th? Is it interview stuff? Is it workout stuff? How do you massage that situation?
Yeah, the way I look at it, I mean, in my role now as an NBA draft analyst and scout, I mean, I spend, pretty much the entire year researching these kids, oftentimes, scouting them, evaluating them for 3-4 years, pretty similarly to how these NBA teams do. And so the NBA pre-draft process, the way I look at it is the final 10% of the evaluation. And it's really, going through things with a fine comb, background, personality, they get medical information. I think the on-court stuff, yeah, there's, you're still evaluating these guys and one-on-one workouts and, watching them shoot the ball and whatnot. It's more of the off-court stuff, I think, that's sort of rounding it out. And so as an agent, I think you're kind of getting a grip of who your client is, where they come from, and just kind of polishing things up. I mean, preparing them for all these interviews and team visits. Obviously, the medical stuff, I mean, I don't think there's much you can do there. But really just trying to control what you can just with that final 10% being gathered by these teams.
Well, one of the guys who, of course, there's interest in because it's Big 12 country is Igor Demin. And he has, at least from what I've seen, sort of fallen a little bit. When he decided to come out in early April, he was a lottery guy. And now I'm looking at some of the mocks, which, what do they mean? Who knows? But I see him around 17, 18. What has happened to him since the season has ended as far as, his climb up or down draft boards?
Yeah, Yegor's situation has been very interesting. I mean, pretty much from the start of the season. I think their first few games, in November, he really skyrocketed. I was a part of that narrative as well. I was at their opening night game in Provo, and he kind of just blew everybody away as a 6'9" point guard. I felt like we were watching this, 18-year-old Russian Magic Johnson. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I think we all kind of jumped the gun a little bit, and we all put him top 5, or at least most of us did. And then he got hurt, and he struggled throughout the year a little bit, and then finished strong. So it's been very much a roller coaster in regards to his draft stock and sort of, media attention and whatnot. I do think he's trending up. And so it was one of those things like he was, sky high, and then he kind of bottomed out mid-season where, I mean, some of us were even thinking he might go back to BYU to play with A.J. Devance, so their stud recruit coming in. And just, I think, as I mentioned, this last 10%, everything is positive. And so I'm expecting him to be a lottery pick. Still trying to pinpoint exactly where, just like everybody else is. But he's definitely on the rise after sliding back, throughout the season.
The landscape has changed. Nobody knows it better than you, with your personnel experience, basketball experience, and now, as an agent. A guy like Yegor Demin, he would play for Real Madrid all the way up until the draft, right? And you guys would have to go overseas to see him and stuff. But now, I guess there's enough money in college hoops, right, where you can get him over to America. How does BYU, for the fans who don't know, get a guy like from Real Madrid to come to America to play basketball here before he gets drafted?
Well, I can give you millions of reasons of why. And so, no, what it comes down to with NIL, it really comes down to the financial considerations. And we are seeing a major shift with guys like Yegor Demin. Another name for you would be Kasparis Yakachionis from Illinois. Same type situation. Was playing in Europe and came over to get the exposure and make more money than he would have if he had stayed in Europe. And so I do think we are going to see more guys like this. Like Luka Doncic, for example, in years past, guy like that stays with Real Madrid. I think they're going to be coming over, which is going to dramatically change the scouting landscape. But there are some guys that are still carried over on the traditional way of doing things, and some of them missed the draft combine because they're still with their teams. Hugo Gonzalez playing in Spain, Jon Berenger in Slovenia. These guys have a chance to be first-round picks, and they haven't been a part of the pre-draft process so far. But anyway, I do think in coming years that will change.
So you're telling me that like Luka Doncic would have gone to like Kentucky nowadays, maybe?
I think so.
Wow, that's so interesting. As far as what BYU is doing, with AJ DeBonsa, right? Like this power surge, right? Is this something? And I've called games in Provo. You've been there many times, scouting players. Is this something that BYU can sustain in your experience?
Yeah, I think so. They have a lot of financial resources, and with that, it's not just paying these guys to play, not to pay for play entirely. They've got great resources. They've got an NBA qualified coach in Kevin Young, and so the combination of the fan support, the financial resources, and just the staff they've put together, with Kevin Young, and then just his support staff as well. It's a great place to go make money, to develop and get exposure. I mean, they're playing in the Big 12. I think they're going to be probably one of the better teams in the country next year. So I don't see there being any reason why it can't be sustainable.
Do you think we're going to see more of that? Like we saw Alex Jensen go to Utah, right? Kevin Young, a young NBA assistant, going over to these colleges, and their impact is immediate, especially in Kevin Young's case. Is that the trend?
I think so, on some level or another. And I think one thing is changing and evolving, day by day, is how these staffs are being put together and sort of the priorities and the needs of these staffs. In years past, the assistant coaches a lot of them were essentially recruiters. And so what's happening now, a lot of these big programs are building these mini NBA type front offices that are kind of taking some of those responsibilities off the coaches' plates, which is now allowing these head coaches to build out their staff with basketball coaches rather than recruiters. And so I think having guys with professional experience for development, being a little more tactical with the X's and O's, I do think that's where things are going.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about the philosophical approach and the changes, and then we'll get back to the personnel. 10 years ago, a guy like Tahad Pettiford, right, who had a pretty good camp in Chicago, right? I heard you talk about that. But he goes back to Auburn. Would a guy like that 10 years ago have stuck it out in the draft? And I guess that's the first part of the question. The second part, how is this impacting the talent pool for the NBA draft when a guy like that can go back to college and make maybe $3, $4, $5 million bucks? So it's probably a good move for him, and he's not chasing that second contract already.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are great questions, and really things that we're all talking about all the time right now. Just it's a dramatic shift and so many different layers of it. And so with Tahad Pettiford specifically, I was already really high on him. I saw him early in the year at Auburn, and They had him in a pretty limited role, but you saw the talent, the athleticism, how dynamic he was. And then at the combine, he played in the 5-on-5, which not all the prospects do, and he was the best talent. And I think he had played himself into being a first round pick. But there's a difference between being projected as a probable first round pick and actually being a first round pick where you get 2 years guaranteed in your contract. Because second round picks, the contracts are fully negotiable, which means that they could sign a two-way contract, which is very team friendly. I could get more complicated about it, but long story short, I'm assuming he's going back to Auburn, probably making $2 or $3 million a year next year, and he kind of takes that risk off his plate and goes and he gets the big stage. He's going to be in a bigger role next year where he's probably going to have a chance to play himself and be an All-American and being a surefire first-round pick with a really nice nest egg of money, which just kind of, again, eliminates a lot of risk.
Yeah, can you describe the difference, being an agent from that last pick of the first round to being the first pick of the second, like the financial structure of that? I mean, is it dramatic?
It really just depends. I think there's upside as well. I remember when I was an agent, I had a player that was exactly in this range, Jordan Mickey from LSU. And he was being considered as a first-round pick or a projected first-round pick, and we wanted him to be. His dad wanted him to be. And Boston had they had 2 first-round picks and an early second, and we thought we were going to have him at one of the first-round picks. He slips to the second round, but we ended up negotiating a big contract for him. It was actually the largest deal in second-round pick history for the NBA at that time. And so in that case, it benefited us. But there was risk. I think right below them was Philadelphia, which we didn't want to negotiate with Daryl Morey. He had done some contracts with guys where it was pretty cutthroat, and the outcome was not what we wanted. But it worked out for us that time. But again, there's a risk, and so there is a big difference between getting that guaranteed first round deal without really negotiating it, and then having to go to the negotiating table where there's always big question marks.
Talking to NBA draft analyst Matt Babcock. Babcock Hoops is where you go to get all the good intel. This is a great convo. Let's head back to the top of the draft. Cooper Flagg at 1, possibly Dylan Harper at 2, but let's go back to Flagg. Is that a done deal? And if it is a done deal, how do you think that impacts the Mavs on the floor immediately?
Yeah, I think it's a done deal. I think we will all be shocked at this point if Cooper Flagg's not the first pick to Dallas. I don't even think it's being shocked. Cooper had such a great year. He exceeded my expectations, which my expectations were high. And this is a kid that was supposed to be a senior in high school this past year, reclassified up, and really carried Duke. This is an 18-year-old kid that's already doing some really great things, and I think he's poised to make an impact day one. And he's just scratching the surface. He's a teenager, and so I think that this is something that will impact Dallas next year. But fast forward 5 years from now, I think this is a guy that could be the face of a franchise.
So when you go to 2 for the Spurs, are they looking to trade that pick? Like, what are you hearing around the possibility of them moving that pick or who they're going to take?
San Antonio is known for keeping things tight. I don't have any great insider information. My assumption, and I think a lot of people are in their assumption, is they're probably having conversations. They're at an interesting turning point in their franchise where you got Victor Wembanyama. I think every conversation internally needs to start with Victor. And are they trying to win now while they're developing? Or are they going to stay in rebuild mode? It's interesting team to kind of keep a pulse on. And then with Dylan, I think he is penciled in as the number 2 guy, regardless of who's picking. He's not a seamless fit there. They just traded for De'Aaron Fox, who's a point guard. Stephon Castle, the rookie of the year, is also an on-ball guy that's not really a perimeter shooter. At least that's not his strong suit. Dylan's not a seamless fit. And so do you take the best player available? Are you looking to tweak your roster? I don't know. We're all keeping a pulse. I'm not overly confident in what San Antonio is going to do, but I am expecting to hear Dylan's name as the second pick, whether it's there or him being on the move.
All right, a couple more for you. What do the Sixers do? That franchise is just I'm a Philly guy. All right, there's some frustration there. We'll just leave it at that. We're at a crossroads here. What do they do with that pick? What are your feelings, or what are you hearing?
Yeah, interesting pick too. I think they've got two young building blocks in Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, but both guards. And Joel Embiid, is an aging star who's had his injury problems this year included. Paul George, same thing. I mean, now Paul's a bad contract guy. Sadly, he's an aging star. He's set to make a ton of money. Do they package this pick, try and dump some of that money? Do they just look for something long term? Do they want to bring in a vet to try and win now? I don't know. Similar to what I was saying about San Antonio, I'm not quite sure what's going on internally in Philly, and it's a hard one to project. If they do stay at 3, I'm probably going to keep them taking Ace Bailey, which is a long-term upside player, 6'9", dynamic shooter, scorer. But that pick could be on the move too. I mean, I'm prepared for there to be some movement in the lottery.
Who is the pick right now, or the prospect right now? I love how you say the draft process is more of a puzzle than a ladder, and I love that. And part of this is surprises, right? Like a piece we didn't imagine fitting over here. Who is rising up draft boards right now that nobody's really talking about? Guys who you know about, and the regular dude like me doesn't.
I don't think there's any real hidden gems. A couple guys who we probably would talk about anyway would be Kaman Malawach from Duke. Feels like his stock is rising, even though it was already high. I mean, I've heard his name even whispered as an option at number 3 to Philly, which is very much on his high side. I don't know if I'm ready to buy that fully just yet, but that has been thrown out there. We talked about Yegor Demon. Does feel like he is on the rise. And then one name to watch out for is Cedric Coward from Washington State. Really interesting story. He was at a D3, transferred to Washington State. There was rumblings that he was going to transfer to Duke if he had pulled out of the draft. I've heard his name being mentioned with lottery picks, mid-first round. Again, I'm not sure I'm ready to completely buy that. But there's some of the things that are being discussed behind closed doors is a guy that could be on the rise.
All right, way too early to talk about next year's draft, but if there's a prospect you are excited when you hit the road, I love talking to dudes like you because you're out there. Not only do you talk to people, but you're at the games, right? That's where I met you, at a Colorado game. What player are you most excited to see in person next year?
Well, we talked about AJ a little bit at BYU. I mean, he's an elite talent, incredible physical tools. He's got, if we're talking baseball, he's like a 5-tool player, but with the basketball version of it, right? And again, a young guy that's just scratching the surface of what he'll be, but the potential is sky high. I mean, one of the best prospects I've seen just from an upside standpoint at this stage, my entire time doing this. Another guy who's not far behind is Darren Peterson going to Kansas. Just a dynamic scoring guard. Kind of reminds me of a Dwayne Wade type guy. Just very, very dynamic scorer, slasher. These two guys are cream of the crop type prospects.
All right, well, you're cream of the crop. Matt Babcock, thank you so much, dude. Babcock Hoops. I'd love to have you on after the draft to kind of reassess, but, man, I appreciate your time today.
No, thanks, Pete. This is great. Anytime.
All right, thanks, Matt. Take care, bud.
Take care.
All right, that was Matt Babcock, and that was awesome, dude. Great intel. I mean, that's a guy who I could talk to him forever, not only about the prospects and who is emerging now, but also this is the landscape, man. I mean, every time you turn around, there's a major change in college basketball that impacts the draft in the NBA. So a lot to keep an eye on there. All right, that'll do it for the Pete Sousa Show today. Of course, we are presented by Slovacics. We got a vacation next week. I'm going to Maui with Christy and the fam. We will keep you abreast. And we're also, Scotty Swingler is going to hold it down if he's off the IR. We'll have plenty of shows for you, plenty of fresh content. I'll be checking in from Maui. But, everybody, you need a little vacation. And that's the thing about when you get engaged. Like, Christy's like, you got to take a vacation. I'm like, every day's a vacation. Come on, right? But according to her, that doesn't cut it. So thanks to Zach Burke. Thanks to all our sponsors. Sikora Family Ford. I went out to see Sikora Family Ford and the dudes over there yesterday. So pumped as our relationship with them continues to evolve. I talked to Brian yesterday. I was like, dude, you believed in us when we were just a blueprint. And now here we are, 21,000. I was checking at the break, 21,200 subscribers. And we just hope to keep that needle moving and we appreciate you guys so much. Remember, go like and subscribe to the Pete Sousa Show channel, and there is so much content on there you can check out. I think you'll dig it, and if you don't dig it, you don't have to watch it. Zach, anything from you? There you go. Zach says no. That means we're good to go. Talk to you soon.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is Stark.
We are Rogue Media Sports.